Hello and thank you for joining us on our first YouTube video. Tonight we're going to talk about one of the questions that we commonly get asked, and especially this time of the year that now that winter weeds are starting to grow. And that question is, can I use one of these to apply this? So what I showed was a Hortex spray, and it can be any hose-on sprayer. And same with the herbicide. So we have bow and arrow herbicide, but it can be any herbicide as well. The short answer to that is that we can't, because the main objective of the herbicide is to penetrate the leaf of the weed and work through the leaf itself. By using a hose-on pack gives us two issues. The first one, it's putting out too much water, so the chemical ends up washing off the leaf and straight to the soil. And two, we can't guarantee that consistent result. What we're going to do is go through the label and a few other things just to help you get a better understanding of what the best process is for applying a herbicide, or that can be any foliar fertilizer, anything that needs that precise, even coverage. So first of all, we're going to jump over and have a look at the label. Here we have the bow and arrow label, and this document is very important. Before applying any fertilizer or pesticide, chemical, you should read the label. It's very important to read this, just for not only your safety, but for the safety of others and the environment. So as we start, we've got the active ingredients. That's normally generally at the top, and then it comes through with a brief description of what we're targeting. As we come down, and we'll come back up to the table in a second, it will give you the withholding period and general instructions for the best results. You'll have mixing, and they'll talk about surfactants, and we'll talk about more on surfactants at the end of the video. Mowing, on when you can start mowing again after you apply. Compatibility, cleaning, and the most important part is precautions. So you obviously got re-entry statements and the protection of crops, wildlife, aqua life, and the environment itself. So this is really important to go through and read this information just to get yourself familiar, just for your safety and everyone else's as well. Now to come back to the table itself, we've got a few directions for use straight up, and I'll read the situation. So for the situation, it says it's for turf, and it isn't really specific there, but the one good thing about bow and arrow is it is safe for all turf. However, when you do read these directions for use, it says do not use on bent grass or winter grass golf and bowling greens. And it also says if you do have a shade tolerant variety of buffalo like ST85, just to do a test patch, just make sure it will work okay and won't do any damage. It can also make a slight discoloration to Kaikui carpet grass and Queensland blue. And with that on buffalo, we don't have many shade tolerant varieties over here, but your Sir Walters, your Palmettos, and your Bisons are okay for it to be applied with. Weeds control is obviously our main focus of reading the label as well, that we want to know what we are treating is labelled. And the application rate is now where we ID that point of what we need to use rather than a hose-on sprayer. And here you can see that the application rate is 50 mils in 2 to 5 litres of water. Now they give a range of that water rate because it's very hard to be really precise with the pressure sprayer, but this is just a range that the herbicide works best in. So it's most effective in that 2 to 5 litre range. So now it's the point of what spray is best for this application, and I am going to show you right now. Here we have two different pressure sprayers. We've got a carry pressure sprayer and a backpack pressure sprayer. Now it doesn't have to be brand specific. I've just used these two as an example, but there is a little bit of important information that I do like to give when people are choosing this pressure sprayer, and that is the ability to change the nozzle. We use different nozzles for different situations when we're applying a product to turf. So being able to change that nozzle to suit, and we'll explain a little bit more in the next part of the video, but being able to change that nozzle is a very important factor to helping us be more effective. So now we've read the label and we know the application rate and we know how much water in a range that we need to be using. and we also know this type of spray that we need to use to apply the product. The next question that I do get asked is, how do I know how much water my spray is putting out? Well, that's another question, and we're going to do a more detailed video on this in the future, but this is where you need to calibrate your sprayer to find that out. As a guide and as a simple kind of bit of advice to get us started, the easiest way is to measure out your lawn and finding out how many square meters of lawn you do have. And this can, let's use 100 square meters as a guide. You've just measured it out. The lawn has come to 100 square meters. Now we know that. We'll fill up your spray and just say it's a 7-litre sprayer. We'll fill the sprayer up to 7 litres, and then we'll do a dry run with just water across your lawn. At the end, when you finish, we'll tip out the remaining water into a measuring jug, and we'll see how much water is left. And let's just say there's 2 litres left in that measuring jug. We know that you have just used 5 litres of water to cover 100 square meters. We will get you to do the test a couple of times just to make sure that number is really precise and we are accurate. So now we know we can put 50 mils of bow and arrow into that 5 litres of water, and that will cover 100 square meters consistently and evenly. But that's not always as simple. What happens if you just done your calibration and you have 6 litres of water per 100 square meters? There's 2 ways we can go about this. The first way is a pretty simple way, and that's by increasing your pace of speed. With being 6 litres, it's not too far off of being under 5 litre. So we can just increase our pace of speed to help put that product out a little bit faster. However, when we are trying to apply a product, we are trying to keep consistency, and that includes consistent pace. So the next thing we can do to change this is by changing the nozzle on the spray. And that's what I talked about earlier, is being the ability to change this nozzle will allow us to lower the flow of the water so you can keep the same pace and put out a little less water. So right now we're going to go have a quick look at the TJet PDF and talk about that a bit more. This is now where we start to get a little bit more technical, and it's the page we're on now is the XR Poly TJet nozzle. And this little nozzle here is a foliar nozzle. So this is what we'll be using to put out our herbicide. Now for a lawn situation, we will use 2 different nozzles. We got the foliar nozzle, and we also got this one, which is a AIXR nozzle, and this is a soil-based nozzle. The difference between the 2 nozzles is this nozzle will create a larger droplet to bypass the leaf and land straight on the soil, ready for it to be watered in. And we'll use that for products like pre-emergence, seaweeds, wetting agents, anything that does need to be watered in after and not left on the leaf. And of course, this one is for that fine mist to land on the leaf and be absorbed through the leaf. And this will create a fine mist. You can see in this section here, you got different colors. The different colors represent a different flow rate. And the good thing about this is the colors match up with the AIXR nozzle as well. So if you had a blue foliar nozzle, XR foliar nozzle, it will put out the same water amount as the AIXR nozzle blue one as well. So that is fantastic. It makes it easy to go through and pick a nozzle because you only need to calibrate once. And if the product's a similar amount of water, then that's perfectly fine. So we will use that blue nozzle as an example because my 7-litre sprayer that we send out with a blue nozzle. And because we talked about a 7-litre sprayer earlier, I thought that would be the best way to go through this next part. Now, we're going to talk about bar pressure on another video because it is hard to talk about bar pressure when you don't have a pressure gauge or a pressure regulator. But we're going to use 2 bar as an example. And here you can see again that the droplet size is, when it says F, it's a fine mist, and then you've got a medium-sized droplet in 1.5 bar. So at 2 bars, it's a fine mist droplet, and it's putting out 0.96 litres per minute. Now, we worked out that we're going to use a bit too much water. We're using 6 litres per 100 square metres when we want to use 5 litres. So if we start looking down, and we can go the next one down, which is the purple, and this one uses 0.81 litres per minute. And again, if we do need to go a little bit more, we can go down to the yellow, which is 0.65. But we don't want to get under that 2 litres per 100 square metres because that becomes a different issue on its own again. So we want to try and stick around that 3 to 4 litre mark, so we got a bit of play on each side. So hopefully that explains a little bit more on the nozzles. And again, this was the important reason why we do have the ability to change those nozzles. Hopefully this does answer a few of your questions, and as well as the main question of, can I use a hose on pack to apply a herbicide? Let's have a look at a few other questions that I get on herbicides while we got the time. And the main other question that I do get is, I've just gone through and spot sprayed my lawn and it's started to brown. Can a herbicide do this? The answer to this question is yes, it can. The only reason why it normally does this though is because there's a misconception of, when you spot spray, you hold the spray to spray the weed for a little bit longer, when you should be trying to keep the same kind of thought process as when you're doing a blanket spray over the whole lawn, and that's by just doing a quick pass. So when you do a quick pass, you're only getting that same fine mist of chemical over the weed and not flooding it with too much chemical, which then can cause the discoloration. We also use the same process of a blanket spray when we do mix up our spot spraying mix. So again, we'll use the 100 square meters as an example, but you only notice about 20 square meters of weeds. So we'll go through and use 1/5 of the mixture that we would with a blanket spray to do spot spraying. So that would be 1 litre and 10 mils of bow and arrow to 1 litre of water, and that would be suffice for 20 square meters of weed spot spraying. So hopefully that one helps there. The other question we do get is, a surfactant necessary? To me, I feel like any foliar herbicide that I do use, I use a surfactant with. There's some weeds out there that are a bit hairy and got a wax coating on them, and you think of it just like hydrophobic soil. When you put that chemical and water down, it just creates a bead and it ends up washing off and not sticking to the leaf. So by using that surfactant, breaks the surface tension and allows the herbicide to better penetrate the weed itself. I hope I've answered a few questions tonight, and if I haven't, please feel free to add them in the comments below and I'll answer those as I can get to them. But thank you very much for watching tonight. This has been a great experience learning how to do these videos, and I look forward to bringing you more. And if you do like the content, please subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.